Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Here for Good, where we explore how transformational leaders create a positive impact on the world around them. Throughout history, inspirational leaders and organizations have always used the power of words to connect with emotion, galvanize communities, and enlist others in causes for change and good. At Virtua Health, we are changing the way people think and talk about health and well-being. So it is our privilege to tee up meaningful conversations with engaging social catalysts and thought leaders. Please welcome our host, Dennis Pullen, President and CEO of Virtua Health, as he sparks today's exciting conversation.
Many of you may know today's guest as a winner in Season 4 of The Apprentice. But there's much more to Dr. Randall Pinkett. He's a writer, public speaker, business owner, and a self-proclaimed serial entrepreneur. Maybe most importantly, he describes himself in his biography as a community servant. I've come to know Randall as an inspirational leader and a trusted advisor in the field of culture, diversity, and leadership. And that's why I'm excited about this conversation. Randall, welcome to Here for Good.
Thank you for having me on the program, Dennis, and congratulations to you on the podcast.
Oh, I'm truly excited, and I guess we have to start with The Apprentice. Tell me about that. How has that time really impacted you and in your career and all the things that you've done?
So it's hard to believe that I was competing on The Apprentice. It'll be 15 years next year.
Wow.
2005, so 14 years this year. And so I was 15 years my junior, and I learned a lot from that experience. I think above all, I learned about the value of developing a brand. Not that I didn't have one, but I can't say I thought about brand personally and organizationally and the importance of that. And that's something that is near and dear to your heart without question. But what the show did is it gave me a platform that did not exist prior. I was doing good things. I'd won a Rhodes Scholarship. I had a PhD from MIT. I was running my own business. Mm-hmm. But no one knew me as much after the show, or rather before the show, as they did after the show.
But what made you want to do it in front of the world? What made you decide, you know what, I'm going to go on The Apprentice and try and develop this brand with the whole world to see in real time?
So It was recommended to me. It was encouraged to me. In fact, it was almost forced upon me to send out the application for the show. I was reticent, if not interested in the show, and thought I've got nothing to lose by sending in the application. So I sent it in and thought I'll never hear from these folks, and it will go absolutely nowhere. And to make a long story short, about a month later, I got a call from producers. I went through the selection process, and then they told me, we want to put you on the show. I said, you got to be kidding me. So I didn't really take it very seriously going through the auditioning process.
But clearly you did, because you won that season.
Right. So once I got selected, I said, well, maybe I should think more strategically about what this might be able to do. 14 to 15 million people every week, nationally televised program. It was still at its height relative to reality television being at its precipice as a genre. And at the very least, and you can appreciate this, I said, I don't want to go out there and make a fool of myself.
Correct.
And I don't want to lose. I'm a competitor. So if I'm in the game, I'm playing to win the game. And that's what happened.
And which you did. So fast forward, post The Apprentice. How has that impacted, you, your business, sort of the things that you had in front of you?
Right. So it created this platform, a platform to be able to support charitable causes as a spokesperson, which didn't exist before. It shone a light on my business, BCT Partners. People were able to pay more attention to the company as a function of paying more attention to me. It opened up more speaking engagements. I wrote 3 books subsequent to the show. I had endorsement deals. So it created a platform that did not exist previously that I was able to leverage for charitable causes, for business agendas, for endorsements. I mean, it is, and relationships as well. It opened up doors to people that I met through my travels that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Right. So BCT Partners, tell me a little bit about that. What is BCT Partners? What's it up to today?
So BCT will celebrate 20 years in 2020. I have 3 partners who are classmates from Rutgers. We all studied engineering together. We caught the entrepreneurial bug in college, started our first company in college, and now 5 companies later, BCT is our longest, most successful running venture. And our mission at BCT is to provide insights about diverse people that lead to equity. And the key words in there are really insights, diversity, and equity. From an equity standpoint, we are at the forefront of health equity, housing equity, education equity, equity for children and families, and the list goes on. From a diversity standpoint, we realize that we're living in increasingly diverse times and that our clients are looking for ways to better understand the diverse populations they serve or that are within their building.
And so are you able to help organizations understand how that diversity can also show economic benefit as well?
That's right. So we look at the 3 contexts for how diversity can drive results. In the workforce, who you recruit, who you hire. In the workplace, how we interact with each other. And then in the marketplace, which gets to your question, how does it bring value to your insights, to markets, to consumers, to opportunities you might not see otherwise, that it can drive business value, bottom line value by leveraging diversity.
Now, are you seeing that industry is being very open and receptive to what your organization has to offer in that regard?
Absolutely. And part of it is this reality that we are living in increasingly diverse times. And when leaders like yourself look around their communities, look at their customers, they see that diversity firsthand, which begs the question, if you want to grow and if you want to serve customers or constituents, employees better, you have to understand diverse populations, and therefore our work is critical to our clients being able to do that.
Great. So you mentioned a moment ago that you had written several books. So what have been some of the greatest lessons, not for you, but for individuals that have read your work, that have shared with you? What have they gained from some of your writings?
So the common theme throughout all my books has been around mindset. That meaning each book has an underlying frame that says there's a certain way of thinking if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a leader, if you want to navigate environments where you're underrepresented. So all the mindsets that have been portrayed in my books has been, I think, the common feedback I've heard from people that I've really helped to shift their thinking to be more entrepreneurial in how they think, whether you are starting a business or whether you work for somebody else. I say all the time, entrepreneurship is not something you do. It's also a way that you think. And I believe it's a defining mindset. You can be an entrepreneurial CEO, an entrepreneurial librarian, an entrepreneurial teacher. And I've heard people come to me and say, you really helped me to think differently, that I don't have to own a business to think the way entrepreneurs think.
So you said a mindset. You've also, I've heard you say that you try to live your life by the 7 F's. Is that about the mindset? Explain to me what or our audience what the 7 F's are and what they mean to you.
Yes. So my 7 F's are faith, family, friends, fellowship, fun, fitness, and finance. Those are my 7 F's. And it really is about a mindset. And I say them in that order because faith comes first. And people often ask about work-life balance. My response is there is no such thing as work-life balance. There's just work-life imbalance at different points in time. But you got to keep your priorities straight.
But it depends on what day it is.
That's right.
Where that balance is.
That's
correct.
exactly right. So as long as you have your North Star, my faith, my family, my friends, my fellowship, my finance, these are the things that I try to stay aligned and in proper order. So
Was fun one of those F's?
Fun is one of the F's.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I didn't hear fun, so I just wanted to clarify that. And fitness.
And fitness,
right?
that's
Okay.
right, that's right. It keeps it all in perspective so that you kind of I have a sense of what is important when I, like others, have to make inevitable trade-offs. Because I often say you can be a public success and a private failure.
Right.
And so when you keep things aligned, which my 7 F's allow me to do, things are according to the priorities that you've set, and you're being more intentional.
So you mentioned in your books that there is a theme that sort of runs through your books, as well in many of the entrepreneurial endeavors that you have had. There has been sort of an underlying theme of social responsibility. Yeah. Tell me how you chose to integrate that and what that means?
No. So dating back to my entrepreneurial roots, the first venture that we started at Rutgers, my partners and I, was selling compact discs. And for those of you listening, that is not the big black discs. That's the smaller, clearer, shiny discs.
Don't tell me you had some mixed tapes going on in there as well.
We did. We absolutely did. But we used the proceeds from selling the music to fund outreach to urban communities and low-income communities, to encourage young people to go to college, because that was an opportunity that we had. And so that was our first experiment with social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship being this idea that you can make a profit and make a difference. You can do well and do good. And that's really been a recurring theme for every venture that we've launched together. We at BCT, the issues that we're addressing, health, education, economic development, community development, are all issues that affect people's livelihoods. And so while we are a business and we are here to make money, we're also here, we believe, to serve a greater purpose, which is to also make a difference in the communities that we serve.
So in business these days, you hear a lot of discussions around the importance of culture. From your perspective, what are the hallmarks of a healthy culture and how an organization can sort of move towards a healthier culture?
Yeah, culture is, in my opinion, the greatest asset that any organization can possess. Culture defines behavior. It defines norms, standards, how people behave towards each other, how they treat each other. It defines how customers perceive you, how your employees interact with customers. It is really the fabric of an organization, is its culture. The reason why mergers fail is because of culture clash. The reason they succeed is because of culture synergy. And so I see culture as competitive advantage. I see culture as identity. I see culture as a reflection of who you are and what you value. It is the lifeblood of your organization.
What is one of the biggest misnomers about culture in an organization? Myself, as a president and CEO, I see others that perhaps don't pay as much attention or think culture is something that will just sort of evolve on its own. Do you think that many organizations miss the boat as a result of not focusing and not paying as much attention on culture as they do some of the other strategic initiatives?
Without a doubt. The reason mergers fail is not just because of culture clash, but because leaders often don't pay attention to culture that leads to culture clash. Yeah. And so the biggest misnomer to your question around culture, in my experience, is the belief that you can put it on paper. You can develop a powerful mission, vision, and values, and that defines your culture. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. What defines the culture is being very deliberate about what you encourage and what you sanction. Yes, we believe that we should treat people this certain way. And when we see people treating people another way, we discourage it, we sanction it, and we prohibit it. So culture is both what you encourage and what you discourage, and it's being deliberate about both. Most people make the mistake of thinking that once we get to a place where we've defined it, that it will carry itself into life. But that's just, again, the beginning of a cultural journey.
Do you see, I know you were a former athlete at Rutgers, and do you see some of the things in sports and in athletics that creates and drive a certain culture on and off the field that can be translated or that can be followed in a corporate environment? Tell me a little bit about your experience as an athlete and sort of what that taught you that translated into your professional career.
Right. So I was a track and field athlete at Rutgers, high jump, long jump, and sprints. And actually, I learned a lesson from one of my colleagues that prompted me to reflect on my experience as an athlete.
So I have to interject and tell you, I was a track and field athlete as well. And what I learned is that I wasn't as fast as most of the people I competed with. So I decided to go a different route. So anyway, I had to just
Valuable
let you
lesson.
know. Exactly. It changed the course of my life.
I can respect that, and I wasn't meant to go to the Olympics myself, so I had to realize where my road came to an end as well.
Exactly.
So our chief operating officer is Calvin Todd. And okay. Calvin played Division III soccer at Messiah College. They won the national championship in soccer 3 out of 4 years he was there. And I was talking to Calvin one day about our athletic experiences, and he says to me, when I walked onto the campus of Messiah, they would say things to me like, this is a winning program. We don't lose games at Messiah. We have built a culture of excellence that you are now a part of. Like, those are the things people would say to him.
Wow.
And it's so powerful because it set the tone for the culture, not just of the sports team, but the people who were being introduced to the sports team. So it was almost like an acculturation of sorts. And so the mindset that it cultivated was a mindset of winning, of perseverance, of excellence. And it was another lesson around the power of a culture, not just how we define the culture as a part of it, but how the culture that helps define our behaviors as well, almost in ways that we're not even aware of. So my experience as an athlete taught me implicitly and tacitly about hard work and dedication and teamwork and how to focus in on things in ways I wasn't even aware of until years later.
So do you think there is room for that in the narrative within the halls of any corporation? Myself being the CEO of a health system, do you think there is a possibility that we can start promoting that type of mindset in the environment in which I work in?
I think it is our job as leaders, and it's what I've witnessed you do as a leader here at Virtua. Mm-hmm. Our role, which is myriad, we have a myriad of roles, but among them is setting the tone for the culture of our organizations and talking the talk and walking the walk. So to the extent that we are the change that we want to see in our organizations, that is the first lesson of culture.
So this has been just a great conversation, but I can't let you get away without asking you what I try and ask all of my guests. So what would your 18-year-old self think about who you are today?
So there's an interview with me at the age of 18 on YouTube.
Really? Yeah. I wish I would have known that prior to this interview.
All right. And I went and watched it and listened to what I said about what I envisioned for my future. And I said at 18 that I want to either go to grad school to get my master's and then be a full-time entrepreneur, or I want to go to get my PhD and then be a full-time entrepreneur. And that's exactly what I did. And I think that my 18-year-old self would say, I've exceeded that 18-year-old's expectations. I'm a first-generation entrepreneur, and I had no one in my family who had gone down that road, and I had no one in my family who could afford to invest in me to go down that road. If my grandfather had given me any money, Dennis, my grandfather would have been in my office every day, in my ear, saying, where's my money? And what are you doing with my money? And when am I going to get back my money?
Before you bought a car, before you...
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, well,
so I think my 18-year-old self would say, wow, man,
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done. And keep pushing. Keep pushing.
Well, Randall, I can't thank you enough for taking time to share your knowledge, your insight, and your experience. You've given us all a lot to consider on our journey to be here for good.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Here for Good. If you liked what you heard, please leave us feedback and share our podcast link with others. Until next time, be well, everyone.